the Michael Manley that returned to power had been taught a lesson that he needs to follow up with the imperialists and the capitalists in order for his government to be successful. In the past couple of weeks, I've been doing a lot of reading on US-led destabilization in Caribbean countries and of course Michael Manley's rendezvous with democratic socialism, which ultimately led to the demise of his government. And I plan to address that in a subsequent video. But today I want to talk about the issue of party loyalists, and particularly how a lot of PNP supporters have commented on my previous video about Andrew Holness's alliance with his colleagues, his little friends in the Middle East, and telling me that the PNP would never ever do what the Jamaica Labour Party is doing. And there are 3 points I want to make to address these comments. 1, I would like comrades to wake up and understand that Michael Manley's administration was over 4 decades ago. And therefore, that is not an accurate marker to judge any performance of the PNP. The most accurate marker for whether or not the PNP would make a good administration for Jamaica or a better administration than the current JLP government would be PJ Patterson. He served for 14 years, and during that time the PNP actually held the administration for 18 years, more than twice the length of time that Michael Manley served. This is the most accurate judgment of the PNP's governance, much more than Michael Manley's. However, because PJ Patterson presided over the largest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich, the largest transfer of public resources into private hands, PNP supporters don't want to point to PJ Patterson and say, this is what the PNP did. Instead, you would want Jamaicans to look to 40 years ago at Michael Manley and said, this is the standard of the PNP. Well, I have news for you. You don't get to tell the rest of us, especially those of us who lived through successive PNP administrations, how to feel, how to speak, and how to judge the government under which we lived. You don't get to tell us that what we saw and what we lived through didn't happen. You don't get to tell us to focus on Michael Manley and not on PJ Patterson and Portia Simpson Miller. Now, the history books are split as to whether or not Michael Manley did as much good as PNP supporters want to give him credit for. Basically, his policies of democratic socialism were well-intentioned. Many historians agree, but he did not go about it in a way that would have made them successful. Would those policies have fared better without the combined destabilization efforts of the United States, the capitalist class, the JLP, and Edward Seaga? We simply don't know. And when you say that Michael Manley would never, the Michael Manley that returned to power in 1989 certainly would. The 1970s Manley might have not. But the Michael Manley that returned to power had been taught a lesson that he needs to follow up with the imperialists and the capitalists in order for his government to be successful. So, who is the one who doesn't know the history here? And lastly, I will say to PNP supporters, you don't get to tell us not to speak on your party, not to speak on any of your leaders, not to speak about anything that your government has done, past governments have done, if you intend to come and ask for our votes. You don't get to tell us when it's election time that you are the best party to run the country. We need to put you in power, begging us to go dip our fingers for you. And then when you think you don't need us, you're telling us to shut up and don't talk about your party. You don't get to do that. And this is what I've observed about party loyalists in general. Y'all don't care at all about the country. You will burn the country to the ground as long as party succeeds. The concept of being loyal to country is not something that diehard JLP and diehard PNP supporters can understand. Because outside of your party affiliations, you have no other loyalties. You don't care if the country is successful. You only care if your party wins. And quite frankly, I think that all of you are what's wrong with Jamaica.